Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of you, in particular the event organizers and the sponsor, for organizing such an important seminar. My name is Suleiman Bakarba. This is what we need in order to build the capacity of PDOIS supporters and members. In other words, seminars like today's can contribute towards preparing our minds on governance, national values, economic and political systems. Also, it is timely for us to share ideas and provoke issues of debate to understand our political leaning. Today, I am invited to speak on the topic 50 years of nationhood and the way forward in reference to PDOIS. This is undoubtedly a huge area of discussion, which would mean taking us through our journey of self-governance from independence. My plan today was to deliver a university-style teaching technique on the area, but because of logistical constraints, I have decided to deliver a paper. And I hope we would organize similar events in the very near future so that I would make efforts to participate in person. However, I will try to narrow this discussion down as much as possible. I would have loved this presentation to come with visuals so that some of you would not be bored. But I am delighted to look at this topic and, to be precise, nationhood as an important but contested concept in politics. And when I say contested, it means there are several arguments on the concept. So there is no such a standard definition or universally agreed one. But when one talks about nationhood, it raises various concepts and philosophical underpinnings that are interwoven, including nationalism, independence, and a nation state. Although this is a partisan event, but I believe that my invitation to deliver on this topic is beyond partisan consideration, and as an early career researcher, I am obliged to explain the central issue of discussion, not as a propagandist, but on the basis of scholarly practice. Now, the Gambia, like any other independent state, has its own story and journey to nationhood demanded by individuals and groups at different levels and in different capacities, particularly former colonies. What nationhood would mean in the period of African struggle for independence as in the right to self-determination, would not necessarily mean the same today. It is now an expanded concept in its contemporary meaning. But firstly, I would like to make a brief description of the Gambia as an independent country to locate our geopolitical dynamics within the concept of nationhood. Then I can go further to explain the main issue at hand, which is the intersection of party politics and nationhood. In particular, situating DOI within the context. The Gambia is not only the smallest country in West Africa, but also the only country inside another country. I hope you understand what I mean. Now, this would mean strategic and visionary thinking that is beyond narrow nationalism to coexist on the basis of mutual respect and territorial integrity with our neighbor. The Gambia is also one of the most diverse countries with different ethno-linguistic groups, nationalities, and religions. But this background presents serious challenges to the idea behind nationhood within the Gambian context as an independent state. The idea behind nationhood in its contemporary political context is a combination of objective traits and none having preeminence over another. However, amongst the difficulties the Gambia is confronted within a broader sense of nationhood are religion and ethnicity that have taken center stage in the construct of national identity, particularly in politics. And the responses from the political elites to these challenges have never been aimed at providing a final solution, with the exception of DOI. Most of them, in fact, enjoy using religion and ethnicity for political gains, which they also portray as a form of identity construct in our political discourse. That is a huge challenge for us. Just last week it happened. One of the state ministers was basically condemned, overwhelmingly condemned. But the fundamental question is, why are they doing it? These are narrow partisan interests that undermine the spirit to create a nation of equals. And this brings me to another important aspect of our discussion, which is to briefly explain the meaning of a nation. Remember that we are trying to navigate a very broad concept here that has various components before locating our position as a political party. In a sense, the point I am driving at is that one cannot talk about nationhood without looking at what is a nation. For some scholars, a nation is a historical community, more or less institutionally complete, occupying a given territory, sharing distinct language and culture. Here, several issues are raised, including territorial boundaries, language, culture that constitute a nation. But to be institutionally complete would mean having a functioning system of governance. But again, there is no universal definition for a nation, as other scholars suggest that a nation is a group of people who feel enough in common with one another to accept government from each other's hands. This is why a nation is fortified by a system of governance, national boundaries, a national defense system, roads, and you name it. While neoliberal globalizations have uprooted many traditional identities and fostered the loss of community values, the national community has returned to be a source of political identification. But is this the case for the Gambia? And I hope I am not confusing you. But to quickly get to the point, modern Gambia's journey of nationhood starts from independence, with three powerful post-independence presidents. And what was more evident, and is still evident under the past presidents and the present one, is that their governments were very close to becoming monarchs, particularly under Jawara and Jammeh. And that is because of the powers and monarchical privileges vested onto them by either the constitution or our culture, which is deeply rooted to the culture of taking leaders from monarchs. And that is why this concept of Mansa, or Lamdo should be eliminated. And I remember the likes of Syria, we are talking about how almost every single elected official is perceived to be a ruler, Mansa. But now getting to the point in relation to PDOIS conception and political discourse of nationhood. The concept of nationhood or a nation state have had a central place in PDOIS politics for over 34 years. As a nationalist party, safeguarding the constitution, promoting national values, and sovereign citizenship. However, nationhood and nationalism are intertwined concepts that have never been a source of national identity, particularly in Gambian politics. This is why PDOIS acknowledges the need to enlighten Gambians to understand their rights and powers in a nationally circumscribed society. Now the question is, what kind of nationhood does PDOIS construct in its political discourse? Firstly, PDOIS as a party prides itself as a national rather than a sectional party, which popularizes its vision of nationhood for political independence and ideologically associate itself to socialism. One may ask the question, why PDOIS a post-independence party positioning itself as an independence party? Because for PDOIS, our identity construct should be a Gambian person who should not accept any form of domination. PDOIS politics of nationhood has been grounded on 5 main pillars, including the right to sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, economic self-reliance, and national unity. In this respect, PDOIS sets out strategic objectives to address the needs and aspirations of Gambians and Africans in general. Our politics of nationhood is also the realignment of sovereign resources or public resources to be utilized in the interest of communities and the nation. In this regard, DOI brought in important changes in the politics of nationhood, or Gambian politics in particular, employing nationalist rhetoric in political discourse, which puts emphasis on the building of a cooperative society and national sovereignty for the collective benefit of all, particularly the Gambian people. From the nationalist perspective of nationhood, the key concepts outlined by DOI include sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and the right to self-determination. So to conclude, the way forward is to manifest Gambian nationalism, to build national institutions, and construct national identity rather than that of sectionalism on the basis of ethnicity or religion. I would like to thank all of you for giving me the privilege to present this paper, and I hope we all have one or two things to learn from it, and keep organizing. Have a wonderful day.